I got this premise not so long ago, and I made a story about it. I got some few interesting things that I never made a story about before. What if Naruto was a king of his own nation? And I'm not just talking about one nation. Let us expand the Naruto universe and make it larger and more powerful. Yeah. So welcome back to Anime King 2, guys. Don't worry, what if Naruto was in the DC universe? I'm working on that. So it will be out very soon. So stay tuned for that. And if you enjoyed this and you want to see part 2, just go ahead and comment down below and tell me, and I'll be posting it as soon as possible. And don't forget to go ahead and check out the other channels if you're new. Yes, I indeed have 3 more channels which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. All the links will be down in the description, so go ahead and obliterate that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. So without further ado or wasting any more time, let us begin now, guys. Our story begins on a battlefield, soaked in blood, the earth burning. 5 of them remained. 5 leaders, each of them command armies. Armies that could eviscerate entire nations, wipe away countries like that. They were warlords, they were kings in their own rights, leaders. They've never had to bow down. They never had to kneel to another soul. And yet, someone stood across from them. As sweat poured down their face, blood dripped from them. They stood there, gazing towards a single individual. He did not look like a king. He looked like a boy. He was 15 years old. That was all. But looking at him, the word boy felt wrong. He was 6 foot tall, broad shoulders, his golden hair catching the light. It was like looking at a beautiful masterpiece. The reflection was something else. His clothes was torn at the edges, stained with the evidence of their intense battle. The blade that he held, the tip rested down towards the ground. He gazed towards them all, his eyes blue like the ocean, calm, ready, impossibly calm. Without any urgency, without any prompting, he moved. He moved as the 5 of them retaliated. His name was Naruto Oda, and today he will change everything. They had marched upon his world. They had marched upon his home. They had marched upon his people. He was the only one that stand in their way. The problem was, none of them were truly friends with one another. But they all had one enemy, and it was this boy. And if they kill him, they will rule, and nothing will stop them. They can fight about the shares of everything later. For now, they needed to kill him. Yet, they brought their greatest champions, warriors. His people split them apart. And him, he was a monster. They realized that numbers was not going to win here, because numbers were just going to cause more death. They need to bring themselves, the strongest of the strongest, to show why they were the leaders, to show why they command power and respect. The first to the left came at him with a roar, twin axes. They spun with a fury. Naruto sidestepped the swinging axe. He moved so gracefully, so easily. He caught the second axe mid-swing. His elbow then shattered the man's jaw, lifting him off the ground. The second and third saw he was engaged as they moved in as one. They attacked together from both sides to catch him off guard. Naruto ducked, their weapons passing over him. The hilt of his blade slammed into one of their chests. As he slit the sword tip across the other one's stomach, blood started to pour. The fourth was faster. Her speed was her greatest advantage. She moved across the field like a blur, using it her momentum. She was in one place but her weapon came from another, surrounding him on all sides. It didn't matter who she had to go through to kill him because keep in mind that none of them were friends. None of these people were actually allies. Well, they were for the moment, but in actuality, they would be happy to kill one another because in the end, they wanted all the resources for themselves. Naruto took a step back, dodging her strikes that came from almost everywhere. When suddenly though, she saw the opportunity and moved in. He reached out and caught her blade with 2 fingers, the chakra around his fingers. It seemed to surround the blade. He then moved and snapped it. She pulled back, but not fast enough as he grabbed her wrist. He kicked the broken blade as it slammed into her chest. The fifth saw the opportunity and used his war hammer and slammed it within Naruto's side. It was brutal. Naruto flew through the air, the man flipped and brought the hammer down. The ground exploded. The remaining armies watched in shock. It was over. He was dead. Opposite reaction on the other side for that. The fifth member looked down towards the devastating ground. Impossible, he thought. And that was the last thought that would ever cross his mind. As Naruto stood behind him, the remaining tried. However, after exactly 7 minutes and 35 seconds, the battle was over. Leaders, warlords, champions, they all fell, putting aside their armies because they would not succeed. Even though their armies were large, it was quality over quantity. And he was a greater leader than any of them put together, despite his young age. And that is what made him so special. His love for his people. His talents was a part of it, but it was the way that his people trusted him to know that even against such dangerous foes, he would not lose. And after so long, ages before he was even born, he put an end to it. The constant conflict and chaos that has been going on. Silence. Complete silence spread over the place. He stood in the center. The opposing army that watched their leaders fell. They hesitated. That is when the sky started to change. It wasn't subtle. A pressure simply split the heavens. All cloud on the battlefield above them were destroyed. The world felt heavier. All those who were on the front, immediately they dropped down. His chakra, another reason why he was so special. It didn't just spread, it dominated, it swallowed, it oppressed. There was no explosion because that was for those who couldn't control the power that they were gifted with. It felt like the weight of a planet. The gravity seeming to just dominate and strip away everything that you once were. To put you down, to show you that there was no point anymore because you could not defeat the entire planet. He spoke to the heavens. His voice reigned through every single man, woman, All of them, drop your weapons and bow. His voice went through them like a technique. They could feel it trembling through their veins. You could hear them, the weapons clattering down to the ground. Special, non-special, they all fell down to the ground. Every man and woman went down to their knees, knowing that this day was perhaps the day that would go down in history. No, it will go down in history as a day when Naruto Oda break every single rule. The day when Naruto Oda did something that none of his predecessors, that no one that came before him was able to do, not even his own father. Just like that, every single one of them went to their knees, knowing that everything was changing. Time skip. 3 years after that event that took place. This time we find ourselves within Konoha, where Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage of Konoha, otherwise known as Yellow Flash, was currently going through some paperwork. Minato Namikaze had served as a Hokage for some time now, keeping peace and prosperity through strength and intelligence as well. But it wasn't the mission report that Minato was worrying about right now. It was the letter that he received. The letter that arrived 5 days ago. It was carried not by a messenger bird but a man on a horse. It was larger than your normal horse, and that was not common within these parts. So the people were all shocked when he arrived to the gates of Konoha. His clothing was unlike anything that Minato has ever seen before. He had handed the letter over to the guards and left with a short bow. As he headed back towards the eastern shore, the letter had a single seal on the front. It was a spiral sun, rendered in golden wax. Minato had the letter tested to see if this was any enemy trap or anything, and when they found it to be safe, it broke open so that he could read it. The eastern shore. Almost everyone, man, woman, and child knew about it, but not from the academy. The curriculum did not teach about the eastern shore. They learned it through stories and mutterings from the adults that came before them, grandparents, ancestors that passed down history, that passed down tales. There was a legend of the Sage of Six Paths, the man that is said to created the world as we know it, the man that was responsible for the way the ninja system operated. Not to say that he created ninja, but the whole chakra thing, it came and originated from him. It was not common that someone would have the full information on what happened thousands upon thousands of years ago. What they did know though, there was a man known as the Sage of Six Paths, known as the god of this world, said to have created the literal moon. It spoke of his teachings, his descendants that passed down through him, everything. But there was another. No one truly knew what happened or why the Sage of Six Paths divided the world. But it is said that he divided the world, not the nation but the world itself. The world had been split in two. You see, the Eastern Ocean was large. The problem was, no one could ever fully cross it. The direction where no village, no landform was, it simply was endless. Many had gone there to study the practicality of it, and it made absolutely no sense. The conclusion was real by many scientists. There was some kind of veil, some kind of protection, preventing them from going beyond to see what was on the other side of the world. It is said that it was a civilization built on different foundations, shaped on different history, on different turns. It was a history that they did not know about. Only a few had information about this that has been passed through time, but no one knew where it completely originated from. The main problem was there was nothing visible to see there. There was no wall of ice, no massive blockade or anything, and yet No one could truly just get across it. Many have tried, but they lost their way and always found themselves returning back to the elemental nation. Many spent fortune trying to reach the other side, believing that behind the veil they would become something great. Even great nations had spent a lot, manpower, many things to try and reach it, but there was no straight way across it. But there was one clan though. One clan that's said to have encountered the impossible, and that was the Uzumaki clan. They had known most about what was going on, it said. He leaned back as he thought about his wife, Kushina Uzumaki. As of right now, there was a few Uzumaki within Konoha. They had came to Konoha under difficult circumstances though. Years before Mito was born, when Kushina was still a child, having already been in Konoha to become the next Jinchuriki. Kumo, the Stone, and Kiri, they launched an attack. It was their goal to wipe out Uzumaki clan completely because of the resources that they were developing and passing to Konoha to aid them in the war. They wanted to stop all of this, so they gathered large populations out of their own forces to strike them all together to wipe them out. The attack had been devastating, fearsome. It had been wicked. The Uzumakis, while powerful, they were unprepared for this. The other three nations planned accordingly. They moved with a swiftness that had everyone unable to reach before they could wipe them out. And it seems like the Uzumakis would lose. But someone arrived. Maybe more than one person. Minato still did not know who it was. On that day, the leader of the Uzumaki clan had died. The survivors, they claimed that they did not know. But what they did remember seeing though was someone. They didn't know if it was more than one. Minato believed that they were keeping this information for what reason? Maybe to protect who had saved them. But whoever it was, or how many they were, they saved the remainder of the clan. They arrived late, but they arrived to save enough. Those Uzumakis had relocated to Konoha, where they had been for the longest time now. Even though it was a tragedy, Minato was happy for Kushina, as she was able to have some of her family here, which helped her a lot. Maybe the leader of the Uzumaki clan knew exactly who it was, but the information died with him. And the Uzumakis, 40 family in total, wounded. They had came to Konoha where they had raised their young, where they had grown, and built their own civilization within the village. As of right now, there was a Uzumaki clan, which Kushina was a part of. So was his daughter, despite having his last name. It was their sealing knowledge that also aided them as well. When Mito was born, the Uzumaki elders were there. Their barriers were unbreakable. They were special. They stopped even his technique from getting out because they disrupt space-time manipulation. What Minato and none of them knew were, there was a man on the outside, a masked man that wanted to use the opportunity. Unfortunately though, he could not get to use it as the Uzumaki barriers would not allow him to enter. Not to mention, even with his powerful ability that allowed him to slip through dimensions. The Uzumaki's techniques were terrifying. Whatever had waited for the opening had found none. The Ninetale was never released. Konoha had never burned. Mito had been born into a world safe. She was protected. And Minato had never spoke of the shadow that he sensed at the edge of his awareness. The threat that he had felt lurking out there. Time had passed and Mito was now 16 years old, nearly 17, preparing for the Chunin exams. And someone across the sea was coming. There was a knock. He turned as he saw Jiraiya. He was at the window as usual. He made his way inside, Minato welcoming him. He came in and sat in the couch. "So, is it real?" he said. Minato picked himself up. I got it a few days ago. He handed it to Jiraiya, who looked it over. The way they spoke, the formality in their tone. I went to speak with the toads, but they don't know much, but they say that, yes, there is something beyond the eastern shore. Part of me believes that they're hiding something from me because they don't want me to go searching. The letter is formal, well written, educated. They don't represent themselves the way we do. Even in more high political status, I've never seen a letter being written like this. It is the same way we use our words, but also different. Both men noted that. They choose us. Of all the other nations, Kumo, the stone, Kiri, the sand. They're coming here. Maybe it's because our village has been seen as the strongest for some time now. That would make sense. Which means they have been watching us from a distance. Wanting to make contact, wanting to start with the top. Or they've watched us enough to see our weaknesses. To see if we have any way of being hurt in any way. Said Minato, he was very cautious. Jiraiya did not know what to think of it. They had no idea the people that they were going to meet, who they were, what they desire. The Chunin exams are in a couple of weeks, said Minato. I can't afford to assume either way. As he gazed over his village, every major village is sending participants. The timing can't be a coincidence, or is it? Minato did not believe so either. I've called a council meeting so we can discuss this, how to properly handle this. Because this can also be greatly beneficial and not just problematic, Minato said, as he did not truly know what to expect. Meanwhile, within the village, the courtside yard of the Uzumaki clan, a girl with red hair was throwing kunais at the wooden posts, pretending like she did not had her mind fixated on the exam. It was Mito Namikaze, daughter of Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze, a young girl that was incapable of leaving a problem alone, as she pulled the kunai out of her holster and launched it once again. Dead in the center. That's 14 in a row, a voice said from behind her. She did not turn. I know, she said. Kira Uzumaki, 18, taller than Mito by half a head, having similar features with her, but her eyes were much darker. She was a good friend of hers. You've been at this for 2 hours now. I know. The exam, they're in a couple of weeks. I know that too, Mito said. Kira sighed. Mito was a very talented girl, extremely powerful in her own right. The problem was she'd get into her head, believing that she won't be good enough, due to the, status that she had, the levels on her shoulder. She needed to stand out more than the rest. She needed to prove that she was something special. Her lineage demands it. Across the courtyard, 2 more of their younger ones were sparring, Ryu and his sister Hana. The Uzumaki clan had grown splendidly over the years. When it came to the upcoming exams, due to several changes that were created some time ago, children were no longer taking the exams at 12, 11 or, younger. Minato wanted to make sure that every single one of them were ready. You had children that had different programs within the academy that specialized in different areas. Some of them went into these programs for about 3 to 4 years before they even move on to becoming a ninja. And they went through the entire academy until they were 12, so the extra years really add up. For Mito, it was her Uzumaki studies. She trained extensively in the sealing art. It wasn't just open to Uzumakis though. There had been several students that participate within the Uzumaki studies. Mito was one of them, which kept her from moving on quickly into becoming a Shonin. And it was time though, because Minato wanted to make sure that every student was ready. They weren't going at war, they weren't having any external conflict that they need to push out young warriors. So he just wanted to make sure that they were going into this ready, that they were going into this prepared. Sasuke came by earlier, Kira said. Mito finally turned. What did he want? He was talking about the exam brackets. He wanted to know if you guys are going into it as a team or individuals. He also wanted to know where you were. I was here, Mito said. I told him that, Kira said. Mito pulled the kunai from the wooden post. Sasuke Uchiha was sharp, composed, and a bit irritating as well to some degree. But he was also a rival of hers. In a village like this, he was one of the most competitive people that she's ever met. Due to how the exam was structured, due to how it was created, it was specially designed for many different areas. For those who excel in different parts, there could be singular members that participate in the exam, but it would just be more difficult for them. Minato had made sure that all the ninjas work with one another, so while there was some set teams, most of the teams were in and out moving around. So everyone got to know everyone got to work with everyone just in case they needed to, well, get along well. He already knows that we're entering as a team, Mito said. I think he just wanted to hear you say it, said Kira. Mito holstered all of her kunais. Hey, did you heard about the visitors? Kira questioned. Yes, my father was discussing about it. How do you know? Everyone knows within the compound. Word is already spreading. This isn't just some normal visitors. People coming from the eastern shore. It's a very big deal. I heard stories and legends about them when I was younger. Most of it might be made up, but if some of it is true, this is going to be crazy. Given the fact that they're trying their best so we don't fully get involved with what is going on. Mito gazed out towards the distance, wondering if this would mess with the upcoming exams. She really hoped it doesn't. Time skip. Days later. Days away from Konoha. By ninja standards. The eastern shore. We finally get to see movements. We finally get to see something happening. The eastern shore that was open and wide. Envoys were on several different areas. They had been rotating in and out, observing, watching and monitoring to see if there would be any movement. However, a bright morning, the veil began to break. From the envoy operative's perspective, it was like a wound being opened up in mid-air, which was truly unusual. There was a tremor that ran from the ground to the heavens. It seems like the people behind the veil wanted everyone to know that they were coming. The ocean was not disturbed, not in the slightest, as a split opened up. Almost like the fabric of the space was just tearing open. It was nothing normal, nothing they've ever seen before. It was unusual. It was unnatural. The physical vibration that went through the very air itself was strong and like waves spreading out in all different directions. And then, the horses came first, marching through. First it was the outriders. It was 8 of them, dressed in dark, appropriate attire, as they seemed to be military escorts. Behind them was a large ebony black, tan with gold trimmings, carriage. The horses that were pulling it were nothing like what the elemental had ever seen before. They were large, black steeds, looking powerful. If an animal could look powerful without being a summons or some kind of ninja animal. Behind the carriage was more riders, the numbers into the teens. As the outwards watched the surrounding land, their gaze was calm, relaxed. They seemed completely at peace with everything that was going on. They did not perceive any threat, so everything was alright. It was unnatural, It wasn't normal in the slightest. Given the fact that this place was 3 days away from Konoha if you were a ninja. The fact that even those within the village could feel it, not just one but every one of them. It felt like a disturbance had entered the world. The first time anyone has ever felt something like this. Maybe it's because they wanted them to know that they were coming. Itachi Uchiha, a young man that was soon to take over for his father, having been participating in several of the meetings, came to a stop. He felt it, and he wasn't the greatest sensor. You could tell that this was definitely not normal, not in the slightest, as the carriage and the horses move. The envoys did not intervene, they did not stop them, they did not make a move. They simply watched them from the shadows. However, as they were moving through, problem arose while they were taking their journey to Konoha. His name was Silver. He did not build his reputation by being cautious. He built it by being loud, boisterous, violent, terrifying, and having the kind of brutality that kept lesser criminals in line. He was wicked. He put the fear of coming into many, as they were terrified of him. Not to mention with his rather large group of bandits, as he had carved out a large part of the eastern road. Not even some villages, ninja villages, wanted to mess with him, because his men were loyal, and that was their problem. They were afraid and too loyal, willing to do a lot. So, the moment this expensive carriage with the horse riders were seen by a few of his men, Silver was given a heads up. The remaining envoys that had been stuck in the carriage did not intervene or did not make a move. It was their job to assess who was coming to Konoha. And this, even though it was an inconvenience, might be the perfect opportunity. Before they knew it, the carriage was surrounded by dozens of men. Silver came personally to see with his own eyes. He was tall, maybe 6'5". His hair silver, which gave him the moniker. Scars lining his body. He had a sword that came up to his shoulder. It looked incredibly heavy. The carriage came to a stop as the horses stopped. The outriders did not move. They stood there with a patience that most would not have, not to mention the lack of reaction. Rich travelers on the eastern road, Silver said with a smile, slowly making his way. I am going to need you to contribute to the local economy. Valuables out, and no one will get hurt. Slowly, the carriage door opened. It seems like there was a bit of an argument on the inside, but someone still stepped out. Silver was not expecting him to look so young. However, his clothing looked rather expensive, but Silver had to take a step back. His features were youthful and yet he looked to be much older. What, 19, maybe 18? Yet his presence did not seem that young. Golden hair, blue eyes. That look on his face, an odd, unnatural calm. Despite being surrounded by some of his roughest bandits, Silver found it to be an insult though. His clothing did not just look expensive, they were extraordinary. Like they were created from the finest material in all the lands. It was unusual as well. It did not look like a knight clothing, but it had representation of that. If that was an armor, it was unlike any armor that Silver has ever seen. It was slick. Not to mention the bright colors. Why would a ninja? No, he couldn't be a ninja. Must some noble or something, Silver thought. And that brought a smile to his face. Naruto Oda. The young man introduced himself. Forgive me. I don't think we've been properly addressed. I am Naruto Oda, Naruto said, stepping forward and extending a hand. Silver looked down towards the hand and slapped it away. The moment he did so, you could see the guards reacted, but they did not move. Hand over your valuables. Now, Silver said, as he raised the blade and put it at the young man's throat. He looked at it with a calm interest. He looked so unusual as he looked at it. He wasn't afraid, he was inspecting it. I must say, this is not the most auspicious beginning to a diplomatic visit. Silver did not care about his words as he could not understand most of them. Last warning, your stuff or your... Silver did not get to finish because he moved the blade a bit too much and that cost him. The arm that was holding the blade fell to the ground, completely severed at the shoulder. The envoys that were watching stood there in shock. It was one of the outriders. The man had moved so insanely fast, his black clothing just whistling by the breeze. He sheathed his blade rather easily. Silver dropped to the ground screaming in pain. The outrider looked towards Naruto. He did not reprimand him or anything, as Silver shouted, "Kill them!" His men, though, hesitated, afraid, as they saw what just happened. "My lord," the outrider said. Naruto simply nodded. What followed was a massacre. Around 40 men. Not a single one of them touched any of Naruto's men. They were dissected. The attacks were lethal. There was no 2 attack, no 3, only 1. 1 hit there, 1 hit there. Each of them gotten stabbed once or split. Those blades, they seemed to be the sharpest a blade could ever reach. They tear through muscles and bones like they were paper. Silver started to shake on the ground. As he started to beg for his life, immediately, a man that was known to be terrifying became a coward, knowing that he was going to die. "Please don't beg," Naruto said quietly. "It makes everything more difficult." Silver tried, but he failed. He was bleeding out until he closed his eyes expecting death. When Naruto placed one hand over the wound, there was a white light that emanated from his hand. Slowly but surely, the wound started to immediately close up. He was left with a stump, if you could call it that. Naruto then picked himself up and dusted off his robes, slowly making his way back to the carriage. Not a single word was said as the caravan and everything simply moved, leaving Silver alive with the corpses of his men. The envoys immediately reported that as they returned back to the village. Minato and Jiraiya stood there, hearing the information, hearing how much of them were coming, hearing the brutality of it all. Fukaku Uchiha was also there, along with his son Itachi and a few other clan heads, discussing this. It seems they were powerful. However, as they discuss about what seemed to be, well, the regime, who seemed to be in charge, the leader was younger than they expected. He seemed no older than 18. To most people that would seem as unprofessional to have someone so young. Then again, the third Hokage was appointed when he was, well, similar in age. But they knew nothing of their custom, nothing of their nature. And today should be the day that they get here. They were arriving. Minato wasn't alone as he stood by the gate, ready to meet these people before they even stepped foot within Konoha. When the escort arrived and stopped, there was a man that proceeded to step up. He seemed to be in his late 40s. He had white hair, but not from age. He looked gruff and dangerous. You could see it just from his eyes. "Fourth Hokage of Konoha," he said. His wording was correct, but the way he said it, the accent was something that they've never had to deal with before, but they could understand him. "His king of the kingdom of the Oda nation extend his gratitude for your welcome. He asked permission to descend." There was a pause as Minato and the others blinked. As Minato finally speak, he has it, he said, The moment he said that, the carriage door opened once again, stepping out. Naruto Oda himself. Hearing it and seeing it yourself was different. Yes, his features might look youthful, but his appearance did not look like he was 18. But his features, it was odd. It didn't make sense. How could someone look young and at the same time look much older than they look? As Minato realized what it was. It wasn't his features, it was the way that he carried himself. It was the authority. It was the grace. It was the power that he held. And Minato was not talking about physical power or chakra. It was the way his man moved around him. Every single member that was there, eyes fixed upon him. He looked towards them with a calm, respectful look. As he stepped up to Minato, he inclined his head. A king's bow, precise, respectful, carrying neither submission or superiority. Minato inclined his head as well in return, as this was going to be something new. Well, let us see how this plays out, Minato thought to himself. Time skip. Konoha was a village that had learned to watch. To watch without appearing like they were watching. Its people were by nature and trained to be observant. It was a shinobi village. So everyone was watching as the Hokage marched down the street. But he was not alone. It wasn't a group or the mans on horses. It was the special person that stood near him. A young man. The closeness to the Hokage made them believe that he was special. Not to mention his attire as well. As Naruto Oda walked with his hands at his side, Minato could see his eyes though. He did not look at the place like someone who was seeing it for the first time. He looked at the place like someone who has already catalogued it and is looking over it once again. He asked questions about the buildings that they pass, about certain structures, about the general layout of the village. And his questions were good ones, specific, informed. Only could be asked by someone who was only filling out the smaller details. Minato noted that as they moved. You have your envoys following us, Naruto said. His tone was not accusing, it was just the same. Is that a problem, Minato said. Not at all. I expected it. I would have done the same. There are 4 of them, yes? 2 at the roof lines, and 2 at the street level. Rotating positions. Rather efficient, I must say, said Naruto. 3, said Minato. Naruto glanced at him for a moment. I may have miscounted, he said. You understand the suspicion, said Minato. Before you arrived, you knew we would be cautious. Well, I would be concerned if you weren't, said Naruto. A leader who welcomed the unknown without proper cautiousness is a leader that doesn't last long. I hold no ill feeling towards it. Caution is reasonable. What I hope to replace eventually is the assumption that caution requires walls. And what replaces walls, Minato said? Understanding, which takes longer and costs more effort, but lasts considerably longer as well. Minato was quiet for a moment as he spoke. You chose to come here. Of all the nations, you sent your letter to Konoha. Yes, Naruto said. Why, said Minato. Naruto seemed to be processing his question. Because you are the strongest, he said after a while. Not just physically. Those things don't tend to come together often. It piqued my interest. This is not the first that I've learned of your home, said Naruto. Your leadership skills. It is something that I admire, Naruto said. The way you conduct yourself. And I figured that it was time that I investigate in person. You've been watching us, Minato said. For some years, yes, Naruto said. Not me personally. But there is ways to breach through the veil without anyone knowing. My presence being felt was a sign of respect. To show you that we are here. To discuss properly out in the open. And the timing, Minato said. Do you know what is happening soon? The Chunin exams. Yes, I'm aware, said Naruto. I thought it would be instructive to observe. A gathering of young shinobis from multiple nations, competing under the same control conditions. The only foreseeable thing should be peace, allowing them to fight without actually fighting, to bring forward a unification that won't just be seen through words but battles. Minato was surprised how quickly he understood that, how quickly he saw the depths of what the Chunin exams were really set to be. As Minato considered him for a moment, he saw exactly why Naruto looked older than he should. It was the presence that he gave off. That is why his age doesn't match with his youthful appearance. As Minato understood that now, no time to discuss exactly what is going on. Moments later, the meeting room. It was long. As they were within, not exactly at the first level, the Hokage Tower. Minato made sure everything was set and ready. Naruto escorts had been asked to wait outside. Respectfully, that is. As they agreed without hesitation. Not because of Minato but because of their leader, when he turned and said something in a word that Minato did not entirely understood. The guards took their footing within the courtyard. As they stood, they did not speak. Their formation was solid, firm. The envoys wanted to understand. One of them gestured for them to have a seat, as there was plenty of seat there for them to wait. But they denied it, with nothing but utmost respect. But as Naruto stepped into the room, he was not the only one that came along. There was another person in the carriage the entire time with him. He introduced her. She was his sister, Amaya Oda. She shared his features, the blonde hair, but her eyes were much darker than his. Not in terms of depth, but actual color. She seemed to be in her 20s, older than him. Naruto referred to her as one of his closest advisors. Thus, she was coming along. It wasn't a question that he was asking. Minato decided to show him the same courtesy, allowing Jiraiya and Hiruzen to enter inside. This wasn't a diplomatic meeting, this was just a get to know one another, so they could properly sit down. His sister was quiet as she stood behind him, observing everything, her eyes trained on the Hokage, almost like she was looking for weaknesses. Jiraiya or Hiruzen could not tell. We will begin properly then, Minato said, as he placed his hands on the table. You've told me some of your reasons for coming here. I understand the concept, the veil, the barrier that seemed to stretch across the Eastern Ocean. How long has it existed? A very long time, said Naruto. Longer than your reported histories, I suspect. Tell me, do you know of the Sage of Six Paths? Yes, Minato said. Most believe that he's a legend, a myth. Well, he's real, Naruto said. He's spoken here as the beginning of everything, the creator of Chakra, the man who shaped the moon. In your tradition, he's the foundation. That is accurate, Hiruzen said, spoken up for the first time, as he looked at Naruto, who briefly looked towards him. In ours, he's simply one part of the larger story, said Naruto, and the part that your tradition does not carry. Explain why the veil exists. Tell me, said Minato. Naruto was quiet for a moment, as it was like he was assessing everything. When he finally spoke, the sage had two brothers, Hamura and Hayato. The name meant nothing to anyone in the room, as they did not know any of this. The brothers did not share the same vision. 2 against 1. Hayato decided to branch off from his brothers. Conflict arose between them, which would divide them forever. As far as I know, they never reconciled. They disagreed for a long time until Hayato decided to leave. Leave? Jiraiya said. To where exactly? The world back then is not the world that you now know. The maps, the borders, all of it that you see is false, Naruto said. Back then the world was much larger. Different tribes, different religions, living on two different areas. Hayato decided to split it. Back then, people of their caliber possessed power to do whatever they feel. To us, they are gods, due to the master over the power that run through all the four veins. He stripped the sage family last name and took a new name when he cultivated over there, the name Oda, as they all realize that that is the same name that Naruto bore. That name has been carried with pride, greatness for a very long time now. As you can probably tell, his blood also runs through my veins. With the division came consequences. The veil was created as a way to separate the both of their ideologies, to see how the differences will be made. Due to many changes and structures that happen over time, the history of the veil has been lost to your people. As far back as I have been able to be told, many of your people have tried to cross it, but they were never successful. No, said Minato. Mine have crossed it, said Naruto. The barrier can be navigated if you know what you're looking for. But you broke it recently, and very loudly as well. Why now of all times? Minato questioned. Your civilization has lived alongside us for centuries. Why now is the time? He questioned. Because I exist now, Naruto said. There was no arrogance in his tone. The circumstances that allow me to unify my nation, they're recent. 3 years ago, the leaders came to kill me. 2.5 years ago, I unified 6 cities under a single banner. A year ago, I started to look outwards. The answer to why now, it is simply that now it became possible, Naruto said, as the room was quiet, until Hiruzen posed a question. Is your world the same as ours? You call your villages cities. Well, in terms of numbers, yes, my world is much larger. Your nations, in the hundreds of thousands, if you were to properly assess from what I've been able to assess over time, said Naruto. But most of this are due to the wars that you face, limiting your numbers, causing countless deaths. As for my people, they number in the billions. You could hear a pin drop in the room when he said that. Minato, Jiraiya, Hiruzen, they were quiet, as Minato kept a calm look on his face. Billions? Yes, Naruto said. We have gone through hardships, conflicts, famines, internal uphills. But we have not gone through the world wars that you have faced. Our population reflect that. The way he said it sounded insulting, but he wasn't trying to be. It was the way he was stating that their constant warfare has cost many of their life. Minato caught on to that Naruto had not said what he said with contempt, merely sorrow at the constant warfare that has plagued this land. Minato posed a question about his leadership. My father passed away when I was 12 years old, and I took his position after that. That young, Minato said. Yes, Naruto said. My father was complicated. He was a powerful man, in more ways than one. However, his mindset was focused on the old ways. Power was gained through accumulation. That strength entitled expansion through control, not understanding. Division was the best thing for him to see because it is better to maintain control that way. He wasn't a bad man. I want to make that clear. But he was unwilling to change. And some things require change. You disagree with him, Hiruzen said. Since I was old enough to disagree. Since I was old enough to voice my own opinion. When he died, the council expected to manage me. I was 12 years old, and the title had fallen to a child who needed guidance. They were disappointed and at the same time, ready to make their own mark. What did you do? Jiraiya said. I began to change things. Power is needed to show that you can maintain control, leadership, guidance. There wasn't much time to be a child after that, because changes was needed. Upon my growth, the other warlords, leaders, they saw that my change was going to mean change for them all. While they do have numbers, my city lineage before was the greatest of them all. So they came to kill me. If they were to take my head, this conversation wouldn't be happening, perhaps. A conversation that would be happening is you guys discussing how you will face your greatest threat, which were the others. Minato and the others were quiet as they listened. My actions to end all of their life were something I did not enjoy. But, while most of them were rather savage, they could agree on one thing, that the waste of human life was something that should not happen, especially those who didn't deserve it. Good, innocent man and woman that have to fight for their leaders. So we decided to settle it as we were. In the end, I was victorious. Wait, Jiraiya said. They all teamed up to kill you. Yes, it was their desire to see things done. They would have fought over the treasures later, but I was their greatest opposition. And you were 15. Yes, Naruto said. After that power destabilization, many things started to fall out of control. It took a lot to maintain it, to carry the weight. It took a lot to bring everyone around. A lot of sacrifice was needed, but eventually, we were able to accomplish it. But it wasn't easy. Minato and the others digested that. There's something I want to ask you. Go ahead. The Uzumaki clan. It was attacked in the Second Great Shinobi War. However, a powerful force assisted them before the entire clan could be wiped out. Was that your people? The Uzumaki clan? Yes, I know who they are. I wasn't alive back then. It wasn't me but my father. My father and the Uzumaki leader were great friends. He was. They were, said Minato. Yes. There isn't much that my father told me, but if I remember correctly, his name was Genma Uzumaki, the leader. My father didn't speak often about behind the veil, but that was one of the person that he speak about. A great friend of his. The Uzumakis are very special people, with their sealing art. However, I doubt that majority of them knew about the relationship of friendship that my father and their leader share. I presume that he arrived too late, but still, decided to intervene to save quite a lot of them. I assure that they were kept safe by your hands. You know that we took them in. My father did tell me quite a lot, but not everything, Naruto said. Yes, they're safe, said Minato. They have blended well with the village. Good. It was a tragedy what was done to their home and their people. This is a part of it, isn't it, said Minato. Why you came to us first. You spoke about your village being the strongest. You think it will bring connection between us and yourself, not to mention there was already a connection there. Between us and the past, he said, looking at Naruto. Yes, Naruto simply said. As Hiruzen spoke, you broke the veil as a show of contempt. Exactly what you see. Growing from this, Hiruzen question. Trade, acknowledgement, knowledge exchange, end of isolation. Not just to grow one, but to grow the world together as one. To stop the walls, to stop the barriers. To truly unify everything, said Naruto. Ignorance is its own kind of danger, and that has kept us from understanding one another. The former leaders never saw it as the right way, never saw connection as the real way to go about things. But I do not share their mindset or what they desire, Naruto said. I want the door, once open, to stay open. That is ambitious, Jiraiya said. Yes, I have found that small goals tend to produce small results. For the first time in the meeting, Jiraiya laughed, slightly, as Minato found himself smiling as well, believing that this exchange would not see anything problematic. We will talk more, he said. It's a great deal to discuss, but I think we can continue our journey as I show you around my home, Minato said. As Minato also wanted an invite into their, home as well, as he was trying to show that this was a great step that might truly bring peace. Even Jiraiya feel it as well. Naruto looked towards his sister as she nodded. She will join us, Jiraiya said. She finds it difficult to stay in one place when there is something to learn. A family trait. Time skip. Minato talk. If the young man want to understand Konoha, he would give him Konoha honestly. The civilian district. Yet Minato was careful with his words, not giving out any layout of his village, not giving out any information that might lead to their downfall. Minato was seeing a future that might be built on trust, but that future was not something that he could see just yet. And he was not a fool, of course not. And Naruto expected no less. Jiraiya looked towards Naruto's sister. You have a question, she said without looking at him. A few, Jiraiya admitted. You wonder why he's in charge and not me. Because of our age difference, she questioned. She was smart, Jiraiya realized. Amongst my people, the structure of success has been favored to the male in our line, she said. It's been that way since the beginning. Jiraiya understood immediately. I bet that is frustrating. It was. It is less now. He raised an eyebrow at that. My brother has changed many things. Laws. Certain things that has been holding back our civilization for a long time. If he were to bore a daughter, she will inherit the throne of leadership. Well, I guess that's wonderful, Jiraiya said. This young man really has brought changes to his people that made them very happy. I bet that not everyone was happy with that decision. You are correct in your assumption. Was there retaliation? Yes, a lot of it. However, Jiraiya realized that she was not going to answer. These people were very careful. They knew exactly what they needed to say and when they needed to say it. You know, I can tell despite being so young that he's a formidable individual. And I'm not just talking about physically. Yes, that is true. When he rose to power at 12, they wanted to control him like he was a puppet. But they fail. They mistake his ambition for weakness. They mistake his acceptance for weakness as well. But in the end, they understood that he was not someone that they could control. And because of him, everything was now different. Greater than it's ever been in a long, long time. My brother is a very ambitious person who desires change not just from the inside but from the outside as well. And that is why we are here, to bring greater changes that can benefit us all. Over to the other side, Minato invited Naruto to stay for the Chunin exams, to observe for him to see the differences. They had accommodations for all of his men, as Naruto accepted. However, this was not going to be any normal Chunin exams. Orochimaru of the Sannin was plotting, and this wasn't your average plot. This was big, this was terrifying. It wasn't just going to be an attack, it was gonna be a slaughter. As he stood in a room, and he was not alone, several figures stood around him, listening as they were planning on bringing Konoha to its knees. But it wasn't just beneficial to only the Shonen. These people also desire changes. Changes that they will take advantage of. This was gonna be unpleasant in every single term of the word. But if you guys want to see how that will play out, just go ahead and obliterate that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And don't forget to turn on the bell notification, see when I posted. But I'm off for now, see you guys soon. Peace.